I've just finished speaking over the network, and wait till I take a glass of orange juice. So by your consent, will you do it? It's mighty good. It's mighty cold. I got a special message for Dallas now in a few minutes. I lived in Dallas 40 years ago, and I like the people of Dallas. And I must not overlook them. Throw up that part of that somewhere. Excuse me, I got about half this glass. I preached hard today. Had great crowds. Tremendous crowd out in the open air. Large number of people saved. I praise God for it. We came to the close of our open air summer campaign. Let's see, since the middle of May up till tonight, we have not missed a single Sunday night service. I preached in every one of these services except two. I finally got through that glass of orange juice. My wife tells me not to drink it too fast. Well, she's all right except when I'm in a hurry. Now, I want to catch a plane in the morning at 6 o'clock for Atlanta, and I ain't going to tell you what I'm going to do. But you'll hear about it next Sunday night. It'll make the ears of all Israel tingle, too. Yes, sir. You want to know what it is? Special interest will be the Baptists. You know, I've got to take care of these Baptists. I'm a missionary at these Baptists. Some, I don't know, 25 years ago, a whole group of Baptist preachers went down here to see Mr. J.C. Wilkinson, then living. He's the president and owner of the Continental Bank, and a good friend of mine. And he was a staunch member of the Church of Christ. And so 6 or 7 Baptist preachers went in to see him and said, Mr. Wilkinson, you're such a good friend of Norris's, and he listened to you. Of course, they knew he loaned me money. They thought, of course, that if a fellow loaned you money, that means he had influence. That does work in most cases. Sometimes it doesn't. And so he said, now, brethren, you don't understand the situation. He says, we educated Frank. He grew up with us, and that's true. I grew up in the Church of Christ, went to school with him. I learned a whole lot from him. There are a lot of mighty good people among them. And so neither here nor there, I'm not going to discuss that. He said, we've got him as a missionary to you Baptists. And all those 6 or 7 brethren were good men, president of the seminary out here, and the secretary of the state of missions, and 1 or 2 other piston rods. And the old man enjoyed it very much. He told them that I was a missionary. Well, I've got to follow out my missionary proclivities then. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I do not. Now, I love to say good things about folks. I love to pay tribute to my fellow pastors and people that are doing a great job. Now, I want to get ready to talk in a few minutes because I've got to go down and answer some long-distance calls to Detroit. I want to take this occasion to pay a just tribute to the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Dallas, Dr. W.A. Criswell. He's a wonderful preacher. I heard his sermon at the Southern Baptist Convention. I've heard him on the radio several times. He's a man of conviction and courage. He has conviction, has courage, expresses conviction. The First Baptist Church is one of the greatest churches of all time. The late and lamented George W. Truett built it through a period of 40 years or more, and is indeed happy that this young man who has succeeded him, and he's a native of Texas, according to all reports, is he preaching to even greater crowds than the great George Truett, that is, in his latter years. Dr. Truett was indeed a great man. He was human like all the rest of the sons of Adam. He was an ardent post-millennialist, and therefore it is very fitting that now a strong premillennialist should be his successor. Dr. Criswell is, as I say, a thoroughgoing 100% premillennialist. He preaches it. I heard him one time, a short time over the radio, and my soul rejoiced. With added joy as I heard them pass of that great pulpit sounding forth the second coming of Christ. Now, it is far enough away to give a report of what happened in the Dallas Pastors Conference. You know, what happens in Dallas is good for Fort Worth, and good for Houston, and good for San Antonio, and good for everybody. The fact is, there's nothing that Baptists do is done in a corner. Now, after they returned, the Baptists did from Memphis last May, there were some of the brethren appointed to give a report of the Southern Baptist Convention. 2 brethren were appointed, I think maybe another one. Dr. Marshall Craig, who is a very wonderful man, pastor of the great Gaston Avenue Baptist Church, and Dr. Criswell were asked to make the report. Dr. Craig said, well, let's have Dr. Criswell to make it, and Dr. Criswell, he did. He got up and made it, and Now, I wouldn't say these things if it had not been brought to me, and I have it directly here written down, and therefore it's verbatim. And I'm sure that nobody in Dallas would object. I mean, the brethren there would object to being given out on the radio. The scriptures say that whatever you hear and what the Dallas Baptist pastor say for Frank Norris, put it on the radio. That is, put it on the housetop, and that's what I'm doing now. Now, therefore, we're always interested in what happens in the great conclave of the Dallas Baptist pastors. These things, the scriptures say, are not done in the corner. Now, Dr. Criswell made a report of the things that happened. Here's what he said. He said, I deplore or regret, or words to that effect, the politics in the convention, and I never saw so much politics anywhere. He made particular reference to the election of the president of the convention and made his position clear to all. Dr. John Buchanan, you know, was put in by the machine Dallas and Baptists over here. There's a machine crowd. They wanted to elect Dr. John Buchanan, who is a modernist, and against Dr. Robert G. Lee. Well, Dr. Criswell, like most of the Southern Baptists, wanted Dr. Lee, and Dr. Lee was happily elected. Now, Dr. Criswell, as I say, was out opening above board for Dr. Robert G. Lee. And Dr. Criswell went on to say, I'm quoting now, as this was given to me, the time has come that we should not wait for an outsider to wake us up and call our attention to certain tendencies among us. We should correct them ourselves. Of course, everybody knows to whom he referred to by the outsider. Now, the crux of the whole matter. Here's where we find out who killed Cockrobbit. He made the astounding statement, which everybody has known was true, of the plunge of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary into the camp of the Modernists. He didn't use that exact language, but he did say, for some time, practically all of the outside guest speakers, the guest speakers of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, have been Modernists, and in the leadership of the Federal Council of Churches. That is their plan, to send, I'm quoting now, their speakers to our seminaries and colleges, and thus permeate our institutions with their modernism. Dr. Criswell also referred to Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary and expressed the same regret. Up to that time, the chairman of the executive committee of the Federal Council of Churches, Dr. E.T. Dahlberg, president of the Northern Baptist Convention, had not delivered the commencement address at Southwestern Seminary. It had been all the more true if he had spoken before Dr. Criswell made that terrific indictment, which is just. Of course, this indictment by Dr. Criswell would apply to the rank evolutionists that delivered the address down here at the inauguration as the principal speaker at Baylor University, when Dr. W. White, Bitter White, as we all know him, a very high-class gentleman and highly respected. He invited Dr. Robert Milliken and commended him and extolled him. And he's a great scientist, you understand. Now, when you say a scientist, that means a fellow got sense enough to get out of the rain. If you know what H2O, Charlie, you know H2O makes water, and you drink it. And separate it makes two gases, and they burn. Then you put them together and make water and put out the fire. You know that? Well, you're a scientist. Well, that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And now he declared from the platform of Baylor University that man came from an amoeba. No, do you know what an amoeba is?
It's mighty small.
I know it's mighty small. I want you to measure one with you. How much does it weigh? I'd like to get a photograph of it.
Not as much as an evolution.
By an evolution, I see. But now a man who says, on the platform of Baylor University, commended by the president, and says that man came from that indefinable, indescribable, immeasurable something or other, that a million or a billion years ago moved, and then after another million years moved again. And then after a while it moved again, and then after a while it moved again, millions of years between the movements, and one of them became a little elongated, and then it got in the water and grew thin, and some of them began to leap around and grew feathers, and some of them run through the woods and grew hair, and some of them grew cold appendages, and then after a while some of them developed an eye. And one of the strangest things about these evolutions to me is why, after another million years, it develops another eye on the other side, just like the eye that already has. And then it develops an ear that you hear by. And then why would it develop another ear on exactly the opposite side of your head? Now, Charlie, you've got two ears. You see, those two ears are a million years apart. Or billion, don't make a difference. And I wish you'd figure out to me how that in the process of evolution, one of your ears appeared, or one of your ancestors developed an ear, Then after another million years, another ancestor developed another ear, so you had 2 ears. And then after a while, he developed a nose, and why you got 2 holes in your nose instead of 1. And why you haven't got 2 mouths, one on the back side of your head and one on your front side. And why you grow a mustache, I don't know. No man here in the city grows a long mustache and tie behind his ears. And got a student down here who grows whiskers. You seen that student? Well, that's all right. Some of the faculty said something about it to me. I said, that's all right. He's one of the sons of David, I suppose. I don't know. I called him in, and I want to talk to him. And I encouraged him. I said, they're red whiskers. I said, let them grow. And I want to cultivate them. And well, now, that's just maybe some of the vestigious remains of some of his ancestors of I don't know where they come from. But anyway, the question in my mind is, here I'm talking about evolution going by millions of years, develops 1 leg. And why would it develop 2 legs? And why would it develop then 4 legs? Why not have 3-legged animals instead of 4-legged animals? Have you ever figured that out? Well, that shows you haven't got any sense. You're not a scientist, Charlie. And so therefore, now anyway, no wonder Dr. Criswell said it's time to call a halt. Now have not the brethren, both fundamentalists and moderates, sat down together in the plains of Ono at the banquet table of the Sanballats and the Tobias? Oh, I hear these preachers, yes, tonight, the woman told me. Said, my preacher's a convention preacher, but he's just as orthodox as you are. Yes, but I said he's sitting down at the table of Sanballat and Tobias. Yes, sir, he's keeping company with the Philistines, and our Lord says, come out and not for one moment should we partake of their evil deeds. Has not the convention adopted the speech of Ashdod? Is not Ephraim already joined to his idols? Another thing that happened at the Dallas Pastors Conference, in this case, the name will not be given, but one of the pastors, this is not Dr. Criswell, got up and said, I got that book by Dr. E.P. Aldrich. I'd heard about it and couldn't believe what was said in it, as it was reported to me. Of course, he heard about it because the fundamentalists know the radio. This radio I'm talking to wouldn't have been anything said about it, hadn't been for that. And that's why I'm a missionary to these dear brothers. He said, I went to the Baptist bookstore here, and they said that was out, or at least I could not get it. Then I went to the manager, and I told him and he told me, I will let you have one, but you must keep it quiet. No, I want to stop. Why do you want to keep it quiet? What is that a cover up? You see, men love darkness rather than light because they want something covered up. Now, what is there to keep quiet about? Perhaps they could keep quiet if it were not for, well, they always say Norris is stirring up trouble. Well, I'm not stirring up trouble. It's already out. I go home out here, and every now and then somebody runs over a skunk out there. I wish they'd quit running over those skunks. I wish the skunks would stay off the road. I don't mind them running over them, but I can locate them. That's the time one dries up in about a month or so, another gets run over. But I can tell you, just before the turn of the hill, and that's 16 or 17 miles, I said to my car, now there's a skunk running in at that turn, and I don't want to pass anybody because I don't want to go 70 miles an hour and pass another car on the curb. And I don't want to be going over the hill because some other fool may be coming the same way. He may know that skunk's there, and he might be running for life to get away from it. And you ever let the skunk get in your car? Say, by the way, I saw the other day where a woman, somebody set up 3 skunks for a present. They deodorized them. I don't see how you could do it, but they did, and that woman, she just fainted. Just like, I'd faint too. Now, I told Buster out here where that rattlesnake was the other day out here, my friend, neighbor, Norris. He started opening his gate, and as he started opening his gate, the rattlesnake struck and hit him on the bottom of his shoe. Now, the reason why that rattlesnake couldn't coil up, he had a squirrel inside him, just had swallowed it. Now, when a rattlesnake has something big as a squirrel or a rabbit, he can't coil up. No, he could just strike for a few inches. And fortunately, Mr. Orr had his gun in his car, and he went and got it and shot the head off of this rattlesnake. And so they took it down there and hung it up, Exhibit A, in front of Buster's store. It has 13 rattles on it. Well, so they decided to find out what it was. The rattlesnake swallowed and cut it open, and it was a squirrel. Now, I told the radio a while ago, the entire network, how these squirrels are charmed in the sand. Well, now then, I told Buster, I said, I want those 13 rattles. So he's got them for me, and I'll tell you what I want with them. I'm going to have them in my pocket. I'm going to come down here. I have to give Clarence and Howard, my 2 Negro janitors, something to eat. I give them baseball tickets, and so I'm going to get my money's worth. Next time I see them, I'm going to give them half a dollar, and just put it in their hand. As I do, I'm going to put these 13 rattles in their hands and see what they'll do. Now, there's no harm, you understand, in those rattles. None in the world. What do you think they'll do, Charlie?
Faint.
Faint. Well, there's no danger in them at all, not at all. I was sleeping once when I grew up out on the ranch, under a blanket out in the open air. Well, no cover, so it was cold, and the rattlesnake got cold, and decided to be a good place to come and warm himself, and crawled up on my blanket. I was asleep, and the rattlesnake didn't bother me, and so when I raised up, you understand, there lay this rattlesnake. Well, I put my head back under the blanket, you understand, and when I did, I gave a yell. Well, one of the other boys came and they took care of the rattlesnake. Well, I thought the safest thing me to do is to keep my head on the blanket. Now, that rattlesnake was very friendly, didn't mean any harm, you understand? He was cold, wanted to be warm. So, yeah, I didn't want to be no buddy with a rattlesnake. Now, my friends, there's a bulletin sent out, I'm reading on here about these Baptists, from the Conservative Baptists of the North. And I'll quote, says, Southern Baptist Seminary and Federal Council Churches. This is not Frank Norris talking, this is from the Baptist Bulletin of the North. Southern Baptist Convention refusing to join the Federal Council as nevertheless being penetrated. That's what the comments do. State and city councils are being formed with many Baptist churches joining. Southern Seminary is friendly to the council, and its leaders have been given a hearing there. The recent call to the Reverend William Mueller, M-U-E-L-L-E-R, of Colgate, Rochester, ranked Modernistic Seminary, to teach theology at Southern Seminary indicates the drift. That's my alma mater. A conference on evangelism attended by 52 representatives from 45 theological seminaries from the United States and Canada was held in Louisville, Kentucky, January the 8th and 9th. This was the first time the teachers of evangelism in the seminaries and Bible training schools had ever come together to discuss and consider their work. The group met the first day in the Presbyterian Theological Seminary, and on the second day at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, under the facilities provided by the president, Dr. Ellis A. Fuller. There are over 150 seminaries and Bible training schools in the United States and Canada. This was a fair representation. The conference was arranged for by Dr. Jesse M. Bader, B-E-D-E-R, of the Department of Evangelism of the Federal Council of Churches. That's quoting from the Watchman Examiner Baptist paper in New York, January the 29th, 1948. Therefore, the whole thing is out. First, the Federal Council of Churches is following the method of Moscow. And remember, the Federal Council is the fifth column of Joe Stalin, has been. They've been opposed to armament, yes. Preparedness, yes. They're permeated and infiltrated now among Southern Baptists, taking over the Foreign Mission Board at Richmond. In other words, here's a den of rattlesnakes. You mustn't go around them because you might disturb them. Here's a whole swamp full of skunks. My Lord, don't get among them. They're out in the neighborhood where I live, and they have one or two dead ones on the wind. A dead one, I think, smells worse than a live one. Well, ought not to stir them up. Well, so that's the whole thing. That's exactly what Hitler said. Don't stir us up, let us gobble up all Europe. That's exactly what Joe Stalin is saying. We'll run over all Europe. Now he's running over China. Soon we'll have all of China on the hammer and sickle. Why? Because while the men slept, the enemy is so tired. Why? Because they put on the peasant policy at Washington. Why? Because it sold us out, my friends, at Tehran and Yalta and Potsdam. My friends, the time has come for the people of America to wake up. Now, may I say this? Personally, I have plenty to do without this. Personally, it's not always a pleasant task. No. There's nothing convincing to me. Please tell me, could they add to my crowd? Look at that great crowd that heard me tonight. Can they add to my crowds in Detroit? Can they add to these two great churches, the two largest churches in attendance on the face of American continent, and the largest Sunday school? You said, Norris, you're boasting. You're right, I'm boasting. I've got something to boast about. Can they add to my hearing? What can they do? Why didn't they come into my house right here where I'm talking on joining door some 25 or 30 years ago? Some sent Marie to the high cockalorum and said, if you don't, don't do what? If you don't put on the 75 million campaign, if you don't, have your church to put up 200,000, if you don't, we won't. And you won't have any church. Your membership will leave you. Your church will be divided. We see to it, see to what? That you won't have any standing. You won't have any crowds.
Well, I'm not boasting. I'm simply telling the facts. Right now, I've got to settle a question when I go to Washington in a few days with a company of the leading outstanding industrialists, head of Chrysler and General Motors and Steel and other men, want me to go in a special airplane to be on a committee to bring Senator Tom Connally from Washington down to Detroit. I secured him to come down and speak to some 2,000-3,000 leading businessmen. And most of them are Republicans. Tom Connally's a Democrat, but he's American, and I thank God for his courage. The time has come when there's no Democrat or no Republican any longer, my friend. It's the American party. It's for America or against America. It's for Moscow against Moscow. And God pity these pussyfooting preachers who say, well, now we'll just clean house with them. We know we've got some speckled birds. We know we've got 3 rotten apples to the barrel. I'll tell you what I did the other day. I'm very fond of my garden. I think I've got the prettiest garden in the world. My wife, she cleans it, but I get out there and scratch around early in the morning a little bit. And today we had one of the finest, sweetest heads of cabbages. I pulled it, cut it last evening myself. I saw them grow. I cultivate them. We have an irrigation there on it, and it's a very fertile soil. Well, the other day, I went out and decided to pull up the onions. They began to, bloom out or blossom out, those tops. And if you don't pull them, you'll have to get to a certain point, they'll rot. Well, so I'll pull them up and let them dry, and they'd be fine to hang up in the garage and get one down occasionally. And so I pulled up one, and it was rotten. I don't remember when I ever pulled up a rotten onion, but I'll never forget this one. Well, so it's squished out. It got all over my hand. I went and put my hand under the hydrant, and I thought to wash it off. Ooh. I went in the house then, and I got all the soap and every brand that we had, and I threw in my hot water, and I said, that'll fix it. Well, sir, I got on my fingernails, and it smelled worse. I couldn't do anything with it. Well, I said, what am I going to do? And I don't know how many times I took a hand brush, and if I didn't smell that rotten apple, or worse rotten apple, that rotten onion, for about 3 or 4 days. I know one night I was about half awake, and I got my hand up my face. Woo! I said, there's a dead horse, a dead cow, a dead something around here. And so I turned on the light. Oh, I know what it is. It's that rotten onion. Now there's just one rotten onion. But if I'd put that one rotten onion in the pile of my other fine onions, it wouldn't be long until all of the onions would be rotten. Now, the one thing's certain, those good onions were not going to change that rotten onion. Now, brother, let's be fair about it. Here comes out one of the pastors of Louisville, Kentucky, Dr. Oscar Gibson, preached a sermon, published a sermon, which he names 4 modernists on the faculty of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Got 4 rotten onions. Don't blame me for it. I didn't put them on there. Now, I got a letter here. Let me see if I can find it right here. Here it is. From South Carolina. Signed by James E. McLean, one of the Southern Baptists. 1416 Divine Street, apartment 30, Columbia, South Carolina. Dear Brother Norris, I'm a young minister, and names of the church is pastor Palmetto Community Church here in Columbia, South Carolina. Now, I am debating, question is, of going into the Southern Baptist Convention, but upon hearing, listen now, I didn't tell him about it, but upon hearing about certain conditions prevailing, I have decided to investigate the matter before entering the convention. Brother Norris, I would like to have first-hand information concerning the 4 professors from Union Theological Seminary, that's a ranked modest, farthest school, he says, in New York, who are teaching in Louisville Southern Seminary. As a Baptist minister who believes in the infallible, inspired Word of God and Bible separation, I cannot support modernism, as I'd have to stand before the judgment of God. Please send me this information as soon as possible, and any other information that you should be considered. I wish to thank you, yours in this blessed hope, James E. McLean. Now, I could read you, my time is about up, I could read you several letters I received. Now, what did I do? I took his letter and I sent it to Dr. Oscar Gibson, and he has sent this young preacher the information concerning these 4 modernist professors here in Southern Seminary. Dr. W. Crispell said that they are there. He told the crowd in Dallas that, the Baptist Conference, and everybody knows it. There's not one rotten onion, but it seems that there's a whole hill of them that are rotten. Now then, my friends, don't jump on Frank Norris. It won't do you a bit of good, because it won't be where it jumps. Listen, you haven't got anywhere by jumping on me. You didn't get anywhere when you put up that iron curtain at Memphis last year. The Dallas News says you aimed it at one man. I appreciate your compliment. I thank you, brethren. I'm not worthy of your high esteem. It don't represent the great body of Baptists. Oh, no. It don't represent 99% of them. No, no. It represents a little coterie. a little coterie, a little close corporation. And my friends, the fight is on. And it's on to a finish, and you can't cover it up. And the more you fight, Frank Norris, the more you fight this thing, the worse off it is. Why don't you have sense enough to sit down and say, come on in here, and let's get rid of our rotten onions. They smell bad. Here is the Sunday School Board publishes a book, endorses a book, that makes Jesus an illegitimate child, makes Mary a scarlet woman, a book written by one Erskine. I made the Sunday School Board apologize for it 3 years ago, and no sooner than they apologized, and they said, we'll not circulate it anymore. In less than 6 months, you could buy it in any one of the 28 Sunday School Boards. My friends, they're like the sow that returns to waller and the dog to his vomit. And like Ephraim wedded to his idols, and can a leopard change his spots, or can the Ethiopian change his skin? Now, my friends, another thing. Dr. E.P. Aldrich, who was a statistician secretary of the Sunday School Board, or rather the Southern Baptist Convention for 25 years, he wrote a book a few months ago entitled Unionizing Southern Baptists. He showed beyond all question how the Southern Baptists are going into Federal Council churches through the back door. Not the great body of them. He showed how that the First Baptist Church of Virginia, where the most of the board, of the Foreign Mission Board reside and have the membership, have gone into it. He showed how the Virginia Baptists have gone into it, and others, and schools have gone into it. And now, you would have thought that every Baptist would like to have that book that tells how that Southern Baptists, made famous and great by men like James P. Boyce, like John A. Broadus, and J.B. Gamble, and B.H. Carroll, and a host of other noted worders. You would have thought that the Baptists would be glad to hear about that, but what happened? There went an order from the Sunday School Board, I have Aldrich's word for it, from the Sunday School Board, not to circulate that book. Why? And yet they would circulate that Erskine book that made Jesus an illegitimate child and Mary a woman of the underworld, and advertise it and commend it and say it's a book that everybody should read, reread, and have. And they circulate that infidel book and yet put on a ban of their own secretary, Dr. E.P. Aldrich. I said they would not keep him, and now they have fired E.P. Aldrich. On with the Iron Curtain, my friends. Iron Curtain may go in Moscow, but they won't go in America. They won't go among Southern Baptists. I appreciate your compliment. You've honored me. You've encouraged me. And God being my helper, I shall buckle on my whole armor as I never did and go forth to battle. Folks, pray for me. Pray for me. It's a battle until the Lord comes. Good night, and change the radio, and you hear my message on how to cure divorce now in a few minutes. God bless you.
Travel apostles. One is wonderful to go to school with Jesus for 3 years, to hear him who spake as never man spake, and look into his face such as was never beheld on earth, to see his mighty miracles, whether quiet in the storm on the sea, or raising the dead from the silent tomb. They took knowledge of them that been with Jesus. I wonder if the world takes that knowledge of us. When I go into a home to visit the man that Mr. Wells referred to a while ago, I knew his heart. I can tell it. He hid away. I went in and I took him by the hand. The mother would soon be 80 years old. Great woman. Raised 4 of them, 6 others. I said, you're a great woman. I made an appeal to him. I knew that would reach his heart. I said, I congratulate you, sir, on having such a great mother. He dropped his head. I said, the day will come in the not distant future, according to the way time marches on, when you look on her pale face for the last time, and just before the casket lid is put down, all of her love, her kindnesses, 10,000 unselfish deeds, of the day that she looked on your face until you look on her is the last time will come to your mind. He said, yes. And I said, she prayed for you. That time tears were in his eyes, and the man who was so hard and hid away responded, and I then said to him,
Have you asked him as a Christian? No, sir. But before I left him, I wouldn't turn his hand loose, I held him. And there we prayed together. Now, to show you my method of following up, I told the young man with me, I gave the name of a man who's a great soul winner, who's in the same kind of business. I want you to see him and give that name. I was very much disappointed this morning when I found out it had not been given. Of course, intend to do it sometime today, but I want to help you. That name should have been given to that man with my request this morning, before this hour. You want me to help you? Well, I'm telling you now. The Spanish word for tomorrow is mañana. And everybody, you think you're busy. I suppose if anybody would claim to be busy, I could. Yet I've got plenty of time to do what I knew I ought to do. We had a great visitor this morning, Tom Ritchie from up here at Springtown. Brought a lot of fresh watermelons out of the big watermelon patch for the office force. I'm sorry not all of you in the office force. He's the father of 10 children. Lost a boy at Guadalcanal. For the great citizens of this state, a noble man, but a great man. Oh, God help us to see great people in the other walks of life. It's a little bit of heaven. When he came in, we had a prayer of thanksgiving. He's living in the home where he was born, joining the farm where his wife was born, raised a family of 10 children. They're going to be here Sunday morning. Now, therefore, here they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus. You go into a home to visit, and your words are like clanging cymbals, and you feel, well, they'll say, well, we'll think about it. That's no good. They took knowledge of them that had been with Jesus. When we teach, do those who sit in front of us have any question about that? Then the second place, instance here where it's used, the word boldness, I want to notice the 3 places. 29th verse, and now, Lord, behold their threatenings, and grant unto thy servants that with all boldness they may speak thy word. In the last third instance in the 31st verse. And when they had prayed, the place was shaken, where they were assembled together, and they were all filled with the Holy Ghost. And they spake the word of God with boldness. Now, as I said, we talked a good deal about it, and how little do we possess, or rather, how little of it possesses us. Now, I wish I could make a statement that would stick in your mind forever. Last when I was talking about a great Bible teacher, preacher, theologian, and soul winner that we heard in college, H.C. Needham, a man of great spiritual power. I shall never forget how he read his Bible, which is a lost art. Oh, I won't say a lost art, it's never been gained. So little exercise